Greetings and welcome to Patriot 6. In this episode I'm going to show you how to smooth out ground textures. There are situations where you may be building scenery. It could be a square pad for a building. It could be any number of things that you're trying to do with scenery. But the ground is too rough and bumpy for what you're looking for. I'm going to show you how to correct that. I will not be going into the minutia of what I'm doing. I'll give you enough information that you can do this. The first portion of this video is going to assume that you know the basics. If you do not know the basics, then continue watching this video, and once I'm through with the content that I came here to do, it will go into a tutorial series that I have built. In the tutorial series, you will learn everything you need to know in terms of basics when it comes to building scenery. And so with that, I'll get started. Okay, I've selected a location that I have worked on in the past, and I happen to know the terrain in this area is a little rugged. At the time I worked on this, I built an airport in this area, and I had the taxiway go through here, and the taxiway was extremely bumpy. Instead of a taxiway, I'm just going to lay down a concrete pad, and we'll see what the concrete pad looks like and what we can do to flatten it out. In advance, I prepared a scenery folder. I have it named Patriot 6 Ground Smoothing. That will be the scenery folder that I'm using. All of these basic things that you need to know, if you do not know this already, can be found after this video in the tutorials. So I'm in developer mode, and I'm in the area in which I need to be. And I'm going up on the developer menu. I'm going to tick on Tools and open the project editor. The project editor is up along with the inspector. You're going to need both, so if the inspector doesn't come up for you, on the project editor menu, tick View and tick Inspector. And now with the project editor up, I'm going to the project editor menu, tick on Project, Open Project, and now I'm going to navigate to the folder that I have prepared. And here is Ground Smoothing folder. So I'm going to open this folder, and in the first level I'm going to find an XML called Scenery Project. I'm going to tick on it and open. The project is now in the project editor, and what you see down here, my company Scenery Simple, is the default generic name that SDK gives packages. But we want to change that, so we should give everything we work on a unique name. And to change it, we're going to tick on the package, and when we do, the information is going to come up in the inspector. At the very top is the package name, My Company Scenery Simple, My Company Scenery Simple. Let's change this to match the scenery folder. The company name is Patriot 6. The rest of the package name will be Ground-Smoothing. The names are arbitrary. You can pick any name you want. It doesn't matter. Now you see the package down here is changed to Patriot 6 Ground Smoothing. The middle section here is for the content manager, so I'm going to give it a similar name. And my company will be Patriot 6. You can go with your own thumbnail, or you can use the default thumbnail. I'm going to use my own, so I'm going to tick on the thumbnail, navigate to the working scenery folder, grab my personal thumbnail, and open. And now I'm going to change the BGL and the ModelLib name. And I'll start with the BGL and tick Edit. And up at the top where it says Name, it says My Scene. I'm just going to take the name My out and do Ground Smoothing Scene. And once I tick off, down in the project editor, you can see the BGL name changed. Now I'm going to tick on my ModelLib. Same thing, going up to the name, but I'm going to take my out and add ground smoothing to it. Except I typoed. Let's fix that G. Now we have a ground smoothing ModelLib and a ground smoothing scene. I'm going to tick back on the package, illuminate everything in the inspector, and now I'm going to build the initial package. If you do not build the initial package, nothing else will work for you. So we need to build the initial package. And we're going to say yes in the dialog box. This is just saying it's detecting changes from what's saved to disk, and of course it does because I changed it, so I'm going to tick yes. The package is built, and if I look at the top left of the console, I don't see any additional errors. And I want to get out of the console, and you have two options. You can go to Windows and tick off console, or you can simply hit the X in the upper right hand corner. Either will work. It's all the same. And now that the initial package is built, I'm going down to the BGL and tick on the BGL, and up in the inspector, I'm going to load in editor. The material editor is up. I will need that later, but for now we'll slide it over to the second monitor. And now we're going to wait for the scenery objects to load in the library. If you do not get the objects in the gizmo, you can drop down on the scenery editor, tick view, tick gizmo, and tick objects. And all of the scenery library has loaded in. So on the objects window, I'm going to tick all. Should get in a habit of doing that because once you tick all, it gives you access to everything in the scenery library. Now, as I said earlier, there could be many reasons why you want to smooth the ground out. It could be because you built an airport and the taxiway goes over a rough piece of ground. It could be some other reason you're building scenery and you want to smooth the ground out. It doesn't matter. The process is the same regardless of the reason you want to do it. And it seems to me like from memory this is a rough area because there's a creek going along here. So what I'm going to do is simply build a polygon and insert a concrete texture into it, making a concrete pad. So in the objects window on object type, I'm going to change from scenery to rectangle. Now why? Well, I can't build a square, so I'm going to use a rectangle to help me out. And I can go to the gizmo and scale this up and rotate it with the gizmo in any direction I want. That looks fine. And all I'm going to use this for is a template to help me build a square polygon. So now on the object type, on the objects window, I'm going to change to polygon. And now I'm going to build a square polygon using this rectangle as a template. You don't have to do this. This is something that I need. And now that the polygon is built, I can go over to the scenery editor. I can find the rectangle and tick on it here and simply hit delete, and it is gone. Now I want to tick back on the polygon. Typically all you have to do is tick in the middle of the polygon and you will grab it. But if you're having trouble doing that, you could go over to the scenery editor, find polygon, and tick on it. Now once I had the polygon ticked, I'm going down on the scenery editor, view, and properties, and bring up the properties window. I'm going to bring up the material editor. I'm going to choose Asobo concrete. I'm looking for square white, and here it is. And I'm going to drag it over to the materials. And now we have white concrete with trees on it. Yay! So let's get rid of those trees. I'm going to add a second polygon. And on the properties window, I'm going to vegetation, and drop it down to 0 and get rid of the trees. And now we have a square concrete pad. And just as I suspected, it's not level. So, with our bumpy concrete pad, here's what we're going to do. We're going to add another polygon around the concrete pad. You can make it as big as you want. I'm just going to make sure I have the pad covered. And now with that polygon ticked, on the properties window, I want to go to Terraforming. And I'm just going to tick on Terraforming. Now, you do have a default 200 meter fall off distance. You can leave that or you can change it. You could take it down to 1 meter if you want to. That's strictly up to you. But if you take it down to 1 meter, you'll see you'll have a really steep change. So let's take it up, I don't know, 50 meters. And that will smooth the fall off. But if we look at this, to me it looks flat. It seems like simply ticking Terraforming without making any other changes terraformed this entire area to be flat. So at this time we realize we've accomplished our goal, but we want to make sure that the goal is still accomplished with this running in the simulator. I'm going to consider this done, and down on the scenery editor, I'm going to tick Save Scenery. The scenery is saved. And now I'm going back over to the project editor. I'm going to tick on the package because we're presently on the BGL. Tick on the package. Bring the inspector back up again, and I'm going to build the package. A word of warning, if you do not build the initial package, and if you do not save the scenery, and if you do not build the final package, none of this will work. So remember, you got to build the initial package. Once you're through with the scenery, you got to save the scenery, or you can save it periodically throughout the work. I highly recommend that actually. But once you're through with everything, you must build the package. So let's build the final package. And the package is built, and we don't see any errors, so I can take the console off. I can take the tools down. I'm going to bring up the community folder. And also the working scenery folder. And in the working scenery folder, I'm going to find Patriot 6 ground smoothing and open the scenery folder. Open the packages folder. Here is the package. I want to copy and paste this to the community folder. And here it is, pasted in the community folder. Now we're going to restart the sim and see how this looks as it's working in the simulator. And let's zip over here and look at the concrete pad. The pad is there, and let's get ground level or close. And we see the pad is flat, and that's what we were looking for. We do have the ground that is slowly dipping down to the concrete, and as I stated earlier, you can add a larger fall off if you want to and make this decline less abrupt. But that's how easy it is to flatten out ground using SDK and Microsoft Flat Simulator 2020. And I want to thank you for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, but it really helps the YouTube algorithm and sends a video out to more folks. which is my goal to reach as many people as possible. But I want to thank you for watching, and for those of you that need to learn the basics so you can do this, the tutorial series immediately following this will teach you practically everything you need to know to do this work here. And not only do this work, but to do other work. And with that, Patriot 6 is saying goodbye, and I hope to see you soon. Hello and welcome to Patriot 6. I make SDK scenery tutorials for MSFS 2020. My goal is to share what I've learned with others. I don't know everything, and I have not tried every tactic available to me, but what I do know, I share on this channel. In addition, I keep up with the changes in SDK, and when appropriate, I remake videos that are commonly used and flag the obsolete video as obsolete. Here is a short tutorial series that covers the basics that you need to know to build or edit scenery. This video and all videos are built in chapters, so you can drop down to the description below and tick on a chapter you come to see. If you are new to scenery building, it's a good idea to watch the tutorials first and then continue on. I may do things in the video that seem hard to understand if you're not familiar with the basics. Before we can begin any scenery work, we must first be in developer's mode, and we must obtain SDK. In developer's mode is really simple. We just want to go to Options, General Options, Developers, On, Apply and Save. And now we're in developer's mode. Once we go in developer's mode, you'll see a new menu appear at the top. I refer to this as the developer's menu. Sometimes I'll refer to it as the dev menu. So let's go to Help, and let's go to SDK Installer Core in Help and tick on it. And SDK will download. And once SDK is downloaded, you want to open and install. Now I'm going to stop right here because I have SDK. As best I can recall from memory, when you install the SDK, it will go on your C drive in a folder called MSFS SDK. And once we have SDK installed, we want to go back up to the Help menu and tick on Samples and download the samples. And the process will be the same as downloading the SDK. One last thing I would like to mention is when you are in developer's mode, you will see SDK updates on the top right hand of your screen. As long as this button is blue, you are fine. If this button ever turns yellow, it means that the SDK has an update and you need to go grab the update. And getting SDK updates is the same process that I showed you in the installation. And it is very possible that you will still see this as yellow after you update the SDK. And to solve that, you can tick on this button and open up this SDK window and find the refresh button and tick the refresh button. And then the SDK icon at the top right of your screen will no longer be yellow. The tools we use for building scenery are not very complex. You can do this any way you want to do it, but I will show you how I do it. I keep a folder on the desktop called Working Scenery Folder. I recommend that you have a folder readily available to you that you can recognize, like Working Scenery Folder on your desktop, so you can get to it quickly. In addition to that, I recommend that you have a folder for completed projects. And inside this folder are all of the projects I have done. And once I'm completed a project, I move the entire folder into this in the event I ever have to come back to it. And now let's place a simple scenery folder inside of the Working Scenery folder. So I'm going to go back and find the MSFS SDK, and here it is on the C drive. And now I want to go to Samples and Open. And now I want to go to Dev Mode Projects folder and open. And now I want to open Sceneries. And down here we see the Simple Scenery folder, which is the most common folder we will use. So I will make a copy and paste it into the Working Scenery folder. And now I have a fresh copy of Simple Scenery in the Working Scenery folder. And I'm ready to begin building scenery. Now that I'm loaded in the simulator, I want to use the developer camera. So back up on the developer menu, under camera, I'm going to tick on developer camera, and it will place you outside the aircraft like so. Once outside the aircraft, the developer camera operates a lot like the drone camera. If I want to move forward, I can press the W key. If I want to move in reverse, I can press the S key. If I want to go left, I can use the A key. And if I want to go right, I can use the D key. If I want to rise, I could use the R key. And if I want to drop, I can use the F key. You can also use the numeral keys for certain movements. To spin to the left on the numeric keypad, you'll want to press 4. And to turn to the right on the numeric keypad, you want to use 6. You can also use 8 to pan up and 2 to pan down. If your azimuth gets off, which it will do when you're building scenery, you can use the 7 key to tilt to the left and the 9 key to tilt to the right. And even though you will use a combination of all of these keys while building scenery, the way you will most often move around is free movement. And you can freely move by holding down the left Alt key and using the left mouse button. Now here's what happens if I just press the left Alt button and use the mouse. Sometimes you can have fine movement like this, and sometimes you will shoot way away from where you want to be. You can always press the 5 key and it will bring you back to the aircraft. So the best practice I have found is to use the F key and drop down. Then take the left Alt key, press it, and barely move with the left mouse button. And that gives you fine control, and that's what you're looking for with the camera. Let's make our first package. So I'm going to open up the Working Scenery folder. I'm going to find Simple Scenery. I'm going to make a copy of Simple Scenery and paste it into the Working Scenery folder, and it'll show up as Simple Scenery Copy. And now I want to give this folder a name. I use a 3-word naming technique separated by hyphens. You can use whatever you want. For example, if you just want to remove trees, you can call this Remove Trees 1 word and you're done. But I always like to use a naming convention that lets me know where I am and what I'm doing. So I'm going to rename this Simple Scenery folder Copy. And I'm going to start out with the company name, my company, Patriot 6 and 1 word, hyphen. I'm in Buffalo, and this is just going to be scenery. And so now anytime I refer back to this scenery folder, I know it's mine because it says Patriot 6. And I know it's in Buffalo, and I know it's a scenery project, as opposed to some other projects you may have like lights, earth, etc. And now with the Simple Scenery renamed, we're ready to begin. So up on the Developers menu, I'm going to Tools, and open Project Editor. And the Project Editor loads up. Now everybody that I've helped and watched do scenery, they have their own idea of where the windows should go on their screen. And that's fine, there's no hard set rules. This is just something I'm accustomed to, so I continue to do the same thing that works for me. I'm also running MSFS in 4K, so my windows will be smaller than your windows if you're not running 4K. If you're running a lesser resolution, the windows will take up more of your screen. So once a project editor is up, I'm going to go to the menu on Project Editor, and I'm going to tick View and make sure the inspector's up. Now I'm going to Project on the Project Editor. I'm going to Open Project, and now I want to navigate to the Working Scenery folder. I'm going to navigate to Patriot 6, Buffalo Scenery, Open, drop down to the Scenery Project XML, and Open. And then on the project editor, you will see the package. And it's right now listed as My Company Scenery Simple. And that's where I came up with the naming nomenclature I selected. My Company, the Scenery, and Simple. My company is always Patriot 6. The scenery is where I'm located. And the simple will be whatever type of work I'm doing. That's the logic behind the naming convention I use. Now, once this is up, we want to tick on the project. And then everything comes up in the inspector. The top part of the inspector gives the package down here its name. I prefer the package to be named the same as the folder that I'm working in. So to do that, I'm going to erase My Company. I'm going to type in Patriot 6 as one word. You see Patriot 6 pop up, and you also see it down here on the package name in the project editor. Now I'm going to change Scenery Simple to Buffalo Scenery. Hyphen. And the package name matches the name of the scenery folder. The second part down here is simply for the content manager in MSFS 2020. So whatever you want it to be called when you look in the content manager. I'm going to put in Buffalo Scenery, and you can use spaces in the content manager. And then I'm going to change to Patriot 6. And now this is optional. If you want to build your own personal thumbnail, you can do that. And now I'm going to insert my own personal thumbnail. So I'm going to tick on this and navigate back to the working scenery folder. And here is the image that I've created for my personal packages. So I'm going to tick on this image and click Open. And now the image is in the package. If you want to make your own personal thumbnail, you must adhere to these rules. As it clearly states here, the only size you can use is 412 by 170 pixels. It's mandatory. And if we look the properties of the image that I created that I use, you will notice that the image is exactly 412 by 170 pixels. That is the only size that will work. You can stick with the standard thumbnail, but I prefer to have my own thumbnail. Just a personal choice. I've had a few folks ask me how to build a thumbnail. I've never talked about building a thumbnail, I just talk about thumbnails in general. It's not a function within MSFS 2020, it is a Windows function. Therefore, I haven't touched the subject until now. But since I've been asked, I will quickly show you how I make thumbnails. You can use whatever style, whatever image you like. Some people may want the thumbnail to reflect upon the area in which they're working, and some may use a standard company thumbnail like I do. Actually, I've done both. At this time, I'm sticking with my company thumbnail. In the past, I have used thumbnails that are relevant to the area in which I'm building the scenery. So I will show that right now. Since we're in Buffalo, I will find the image on the interwebs of Buffalo. Now, I could right-click and copy, or I can use the Windows Snippet tool. Now, the aspect ratio of the thumbnail is different than what we see here. So because when the aspect ratio changes, I don't want this thumbnail to be too skewed, I'll use the Windows Snippet tool to grab the image closer to the aspect ratio of the thumbnail. Here's the Windows Snipping tool. Everybody has that standard in Windows. Just going to tick New and go down and snip a portion of this image that seems close to what I think it will look like in the thumbnail. And now I have the image snipped. I can close down the browser and bring up Microsoft Paint. Nothing special, just the simple Microsoft Paint tool. I'll copy this image and paste it into Paint. Now we'll see the image needs to be cropped, so I'm going to select and crop the image. Yours may not. Mine's set up to a specific resolution. And then I'm going to tick the crop button. And now I have this image, and this is my starting point. If you want to add text in, you can do that. Find the size and the font that works for you. All right, the title's on it. And now I want to size it up where it will work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm going to go to Resize. And I'm going to use pixels since we have a specific pixel number we're trying to hit. And it's 470. The vertical pixels need to be 170, so I'm going to have to unlink it and type in 170. And now I have a thumbnail that will work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just a matter of saving now. And it can be a JPEG. And then you want to save it into whatever folder you're going to be looking for the thumbnail. As you see, the aspect ratio is different like I said it would be. The guessing I did vertically was a little off and the picture's a little skewed. But it's a thumbnail, so it shouldn't be a big deal. You can take as much time as you want and get it perfect. That is up to you. There is a final subject that I want to touch on when it comes to building packages. When you build the package and fill in the information as I did here in the inspector, when you go down on the project editor and look at the package and tick on the arrow, by default you see My Scene BGL and My ModelLib. There is chatter out there on the interwebs, and I've actually even seen this in videos, that using the default names My Scene BGL and My ModelLib in multiple projects can cause a problem or a conflict. In full disclosure, I have no idea what the problem or the conflict looks like. I have created between 400 and 500 scenery packages, and the vast majority use the default My Scene BGL and My ModelLib. In my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee, I can run up to 49 packages in that one area alone. 49 that I have built. And all of them have the default My Scene, My ModelLib. If there is a problem, I've never seen it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what the problem looks like. But there are people out there that say it can create a problem. And if there is a potential for a problem, then certainly we want to avoid it. It's too easy of a fix to ignore it. Here is how you edit the BGLs. On the inspector, down here at the bottom, you'll see My Scene BGL and My ModelLib. and you simply hit the edit button, and we'll go up to the top where it says name, and we want to edit this name. The idea is to give it a unique name. So I've given it the name Buffalo Scenery. And this will work fine as long as I don't make multiple packages. If I do, then I may want to consider giving the next one a different name. And it changed to Buffalo Scenery. Since this is a my scene, I want to keep the word scenery in there so it keeps me straight on which one I'm going to load into the editor. I will tick on my ModelLib, and I will go up and remove the my and add Buffalo to it. And when I tick off, it has now been renamed to Buffalo ModelLib. If this truly is a problem, we don't have to worry about it now. But just remember, when we get ready to open the project in the inspector, we want to use the BGL and not the ModelLib. This advice was recorded after I made the tutorial, and I have inserted it into the tutorial. When I go back to the tutorial, you will see what I previously recorded. And now once all of this is complete, the next step is to build the package. This should only take a few seconds. You will get a dialog box saying you're getting ready to change the information that's saved to the disk, so you want to tick yes. And now the package is built. If we look at the top, we do not see any additional errors, so we can exit out of the console by ticking the X here, or going up to the window and exit out of the console. And now once we've built the initial package, remember, you have to build the package to start. If you don't build the package, you can go no farther than where we are right now. So you must build the initial package. And once it's built, we can go down to the little blue arrow that you can see here and tick on the blue arrow. It will open up Marketplace Data, My Scene BGL, and My ModelLib. Let's go to My Scene BGL and tick on it, and then load in Editor on the inspector. And various windows pop up. You will certainly get the Scenery Editor. You may not get the gizmo. You may not get the objects. So down on the Scenery Editor, you can go to View and tick on Objects and tick on Gizmo, because we're going to need both from time to time. The Material Editor is up. I'm going to move it out of the way for right now. And we'll wait on everything to load in, and I see that it has loaded in. Once all of the assets have loaded in from the scenery library, you always want to tick All when you're looking for an object to add. So we'll tick All. And now we're ready to go. What I'm going to show you is a polygon, and polygons are used a lot in MSFS 2020 scenery building. I will not go into all of the details of what to do with the polygon. There is a separate video of that. I will link it in the description below. Make sure you go to the description below. You will find the button on a YouTube video here under the description. And you can tick on Show More, and it will open you up more information. And inside this description, I will link various things, including the chapters of my video. I will place a link to a video that will teach you all things polygons, where I go through everything that you can do with polygons. And it is a video I highly recommend everybody watch, because Polygon is a very common tool that you will use often. So let's build a polygon. I'm going to rise and move over here. Here looks like a good spot. Up on the Objects window, I will change from Scenery to Polygon. I'm going to tick Add. I'm going to get an error. That's because I haven't started building it yet. And now I'm going to hold the left control key down the entire time, and every left mouse tick will set an anchor point. Tick, 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 tick. And once you get to the last anchor point with the left control key down, you want to double tick. And now the polygon is completed. So now we're done with the project. So the first thing we want to do is go down on the scenery editor and save the scenery. Always save the scenery before you stop. In fact, I would save the scenery often through the project. Now, once the scenery is saved, back on the project editor, I'm going to tick on the package, the blue package at the top. And once again, the information lights up in the inspector, and you must do this. You have to build the package. The package is now built, and I could see the console behind everything, and there are no errors, so I could exit out. To recap, when you start the package and get it named, you have to build the initial package to begin. Once you're through with the scenery, and I recommend often while building, save the scenery. And then for it all to come together and the package to work, you have to build the package the final time. And now I'm going to close this project. I'm going back to the working scenery folder. I'm going to find Patriot 6 Buffalo scenery. Here it is. Here is the scenery folder we've been working on. Now if we open this folder again, drop down to packages, you see Patriot 6 Buffalo scenery. This is the package you will drop in your community folder, or if you use the add-ons linker into whatever folder you want to use. And then once you restart the simulator, it will pick up this package, and now you know all the basics. But as time goes by and you build scenery, some of the gaps you have in your knowledge will start to fill in. And before you know it, you will be building scenery like a pro. So thank you for watching the tutorial series.